The Standards and Testing Agency developed the national curriculum tests over a period of 3 years. The team who are responsible for the development of the tests have all been classroom teachers, and our psychometricians and project managers all contribute to ensure that the tests are valid and reliable assessment materials. The test development process begins with the national curriculum test frameworks that set out the requirements of the tests in terms of coverage of the curriculum, number of marks, and balance of question type. They are the specification to which the tests are developed. The frameworks include content domains, setting out the areas of the curriculum that are accessible in the statutory assessments, as well as cognitive domains, which help us to ensure the difficulty is comparable from year to year at the outset. We use an item bank approach to test development, whereby we have a huge catalogue of questions assessing content from across the national curriculum and including a range of text and question types, for example, fiction and non-fiction texts, multiple choice questions and questions that require a constructed response, and a range of mark allocations. We top up this item bank regularly and write our materials to a set of comprehensive guidelines. For reading, the text selection process is extremely thorough. There is extensive guidance setting out what is and isn't appropriate and accessible for the national cohort and other considerations to take into account to ensure the texts elicit the questions we need them to and are linguistically rich. We take the texts into schools and informally trial them, talking to children and teachers and gathering feedback at a very early stage. When we have a healthy pot of materials, we take it all to an expert review panel 1. This is where we ask teachers and inclusion experts with a range of specialisms to comment on the texts and questions. We welcome teachers from a range of school type and location and inclusion experts with specialisms including those who work with children with dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, people who work with children whose second language is English or have hearing or visual impairments, as well as language development experts and educational psychologists. We also have a panel of equity, representation and diversity advisors who feed back on the materials. We take on board all of the advice we receive and refine the questions, rewrite them or archive them. We then take our questions to the first of our trials that take place at the same time of year that the children take the live tests so that they have covered the same amount of the programme of study. This is an item validation trial where 300 children from a nationally representative sample of schools take the tests. We code their responses to see exactly what answers they give, and we analyse the percentage of children giving the right answer or missing the question out, as well as comparing responses across the ability range and investigating the performance of different groups, for example, girls and boys and pupils with English as an additional language. We then take the data from the trials, along with the information about children's experience of taking them, to a second expert review group. Again, we ask teachers and educational professionals and inclusion experts to comment on the materials and go through another stage of refining, replacing or archiving texts and questions. This leads to the second of our large-scale trials, the technical pretest. Here, approximately 1,000 pupils take the assessments. We use the information from this trial to anchor the standard back to the previous tests and ensure that standards are maintained. We then bring together the qualitative and quantitative evidence to construct the live test according to the specification set out in the framework. We take the tests to a third expert review panel to ensure that teachers and curriculum experts consider them to be appropriate and fair. In conjunction with the development of the standard test materials, the test development researchers also work with modified experts who work with children who have visual and hearing impairments to provide guidance and modified materials of the tests. These are the Braille and modified large print materials. They also work with senior markers to develop marker training and quality assurance materials to ensure that the thousands of test scripts are marked accurately, consistently and reliably. The tests are developed taking into account a huge amount of advice and qualitative evidence, as well as quantitative information, to ensure that the test results are a valid and reliable reflection of pupil achievement.